Okay, this should be live now, right? On my thing it is? Okay, cool. Okay, cool. Yeah. Streamlabs was not kind to me. I'm trying to make sure. Okay, cool. Audio's good now? Yeah, now I gotta change that. Get me out of there. Okay. It's good, yeah. Okay, so everybody is fine now. The audio is fine. Let me listen to myself real quick. Okay, cool. That was oh, you guys can't hear the guests. I guess.
Or
Yeah, I figured I had a different thing for Discord here, but I guess that was not working right.
it gets a little funny.
Yeah.
A little funny sometimes.
Okay. Fredden said, "Nice thumbnail." My thumbnail artist for this was Fredden. He did it for free because I was just so bad at making it. He took over, so.
Took pity on you.
Yeah, shoutouts to Fredden. Okay, so today.
And Fredden really saved him, huh?
True. I guess I don't know the best way to show this to you guys aside from having you just here, let me see. Can I make my screen full size in OBS? Let me see. Yes, right. And then just like screen share it to you guys because I'm gonna be putting stuff up on screen and stuff like that. So,
I see that tab up there.
Huh? What tab?
The Google Docs one. I also have that same tab open.
Oh yeah.
Me too.
Okay. Change stream. I'm gonna make you guys see my OBS one.
Duct tape cat trying to swim. Oh my god.
Yeah, I'm not good at thumbnails right now, so I'll learn. I'll get better.
Yeah, part of it's gonna be like just asking too many questions if somebody does it for you. You're like, let me watch. Why are you doing it like that?
Yeah.
What's that for? What was that? What did that button do?
Okay, so today we are going to be talking about this thing right here. This MCM graph and talking about
what I hate.
What it means. So I guess we'll start out with what you guys currently think about this. What are your current thoughts about it? And I'll give mine afterwards too, and then we can compare.
I mean, lots to think about.
I guess I can go first if you guys want me to go first. To give my thoughts on it and then compare what you think.
Go for it.
Whoa. From low. Oh, I don't know why that is so small. This should not be that small.
It's itty bitty. That was adorable.
Yeah. So, okay. My thoughts about this timeline is that this is a visual representation of the narrative of Murray's costume manner, right? I think that this is, could be a very clear indicator. So, because my initial thoughts were, right, we know what was Murray's most successful invention?
The Cleanovac.
Robovac.
Yeah, it would be the Cleanovac, or the Cleanovac. So my thought was that this should be the Cleanovac, right? If it's his most successful invention. What did Absol say?
Weird that they have a red section representing not making a profit on a graph
Yeah.
of net profits. I didn't
That's-
catch that it's net earnings.
Yeah, net earnings. So they were in the red for this.
Well, there shouldn't be a red on net.
Yeah, I mean,
That's the thing.
it could be. Oh, that is weird that it would have a red to begin with. It could be this was like, I don't know, maybe Murray came from money, you know, like it was his family was wealthy.
Oh, you think that's negatives?
Maybe, like, I'm not sure. But if this, I'll just get straight into what I think is the messed up thing is that I think that David Murray was born in 1970 and died in 1975, right? But if that's the case, this cannot be from the Cleanovac because the
No, it's
Cleanovac
not.
was already around for his second birthday, and this would be 73. So his second birthday would be 72 December. This spike happens in 73. So something is wrong here, but I'm not sure which one it is.
My opinion of the big... Oh, you can go ahead if you like.
I would guess that first spike where it kind of jumps up out of the red would be the Cleanovac. Like it was really successful, but not like the 73, whatever the hell happened in 73 successful. You know, like he had a little spike and then it kind of went up and down while he was pumping out those new inventions. And then I think when it dipped back into the red, you know, when all of the mimic AI sort of stuff in his new inventions started going haywire and everyone started returning them all, I feel like that might be the dip in the red. And then, but yeah, what is the giant jump? That's such an insane jump.
Yeah.
All right, my opinion on the jump. Because I think you're right about it coming out of the red being the Cleanovac, the coat rack, all of his little, like, parts of the mimic AI that he put into inventions there. And then they start going haywire, it dips back into the red. At that point, I think he panics. He gets desperate, he goes against what his dad told him, and he partners with Fazbear Entertainment.
So you think the spike is
So
Fazbear.
he gets this big boost when he first partners with them. And then after Fiona dies, which would have been in 73, late 73, everything starts going downhill. Now, what's interesting to me is that this graph cuts off at 1975, at the end of that year.
Yeah.
When we see orders for costumes in 77.
Yeah, I got those here, too.
At the latest.
Because I knew...
You're welcome.
Yeah, I knew that we were going to be needing this. So, yeah, the latest we see for... I got to make this bigger. Hold on.
Is the expressive tongue.
Yeah, the latest we see is 1977 here. April 1977. So if David dies in 75, MCM is still running for at least 2 years after his death. And so you're right to call out that it is weird that the graphic itself cuts off in 75. Because one of the other things we know is that the Fazbear project to make Freddy's started in 75. I think we have that here, or at least research and development started in 75.
Yeah, R&D came up then.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking the big spike is, honestly, I don't know if Fall Fest is owned by Fazbear Entertainment at this point, but I think he would have started working with both at the same time. And then Fiona bringing up, I'm going to Fall Fest. And then she dies.
Yeah.
Like, I think we could make that connection there of, like, they started working with Fall Fest and then that led to Fiona's death. Which I think was orchestrated. I think Afton did it on purpose.
I agree with that.
Let me say, there is that one audio in the R&D bathroom or whatever where Edwin's, you know, kind of lamenting the new change orders, and he says, why don't we put them in the Springlock suit like we always do?
Yeah,
So,
why don't we get teenagers to wear them or whatever?
Yeah, like we always do. So that's pre the Fazbear project, or, you know, the Freddy's project. So he's been making and providing Springlock suits. So yeah, he's been working with Fazbear. So
Yeah.
I think you're right, that giant jump was just the first time he took on the Fazbear, or the first time he started working with Fazbear.
I would say because he would have been told by his father. We hear in a recording him going, "Dad was right. They're not your friends. They want to destroy you." So his dad would have warned him, "Don't work with these people. Don't work with Afton. Don't work with Fazbear." And then when he dips back into the red, he panics and he takes that deal. And it would have been a good deal to really like pull him in, get a hold of him, get Afton's greedy little claws into him, and then to just try to destroy him. And part of that is, I think, orchestrating the death of his wife.
Yeah.
When do people think, is there a common consensus on when the original Fredbear's Diner opened?
So, I
Well,
think,
it used to be well after these years.
yeah, it used to be from the novel trilogy. It was 79 was when it opened, which we obviously know that can't be the case in the games because of things like the Fazbear Project in 75 and, Fazbear
Well, do we
Entertainment.
know that they opened the diner, right? Because if Edwin was building the Springlock suits for the diner, do we know that they actually got that opened in that year?
Well, I'm wondering if the giant spike is Fredbear's,
The
because
diner opening.
I mean, it was super successful. So, that little spike before the like straight up line is
What's
his,
interesting?
money from the project, and then, I feel like he'd get really popular since the diner's doing so well.
Terminal just came in and was asking if the spike was the Cleanovac. That's what we were discussing, because if David is born in 70 and dies in 75, this spike cannot be from the Cleanovac because the Cleanovac is already made before his second birthday. And if he was, born in 70, that would be 72 right here in December. So if this was from the Cleanovac, it would have to mean that, like, say David would be, this would be his second birthday here. So I don't know, because the other option is that this could still be from the Cleanovac, and it's just we have his dates wrong for his birth, Like, say he was born in 71, then this would be his first birthday, this would be his second birthday. Then that would mean that he would die when he's 4.
Let me say about that. In one of the birthday tapes, it's his second birthday, and he's like, Edwin, he won't come out to the birthday because he's got an idea, and he says, even bigger than the Cleanovac, right?
Yeah, that's the second birthday.
The Cleanovac at least has to be prior to David's second birthday. We know that.
Yeah, I have this here for that reason, so we can look at these tapes if we want to.
Oh my goodness. Who is that? What kind of soul uploaded these for everyone to use?
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of the I don't know what happened, but I couldn't find your.
So there's a playlist now that has all of them, and a lot of them are unlisted. Just so when you go to my videos tab, it's not just friggin' voice lines for 20 years. But all the ones that are still there, if you hit the little card, it links to the playlist, and the playlist itself is public.
I see.
Nice.
Okay, well, yeah, if we want to take a look at some of these now, because we can hear.
Happy birthday, buddy. Happy birthday, sweetie. Mommy made this special for you.
I don't have any audio.
That cake looks really familiar. It's a really familiar looking cake, you guys.
Yeah, you this is the one in the 40th, right? Yay 40.
The Yay 40 room, and the freaking Yay 40 room, and the freaking Pizzaplex, and freaking Security Breach, that game that I hate. I'm fine.
Yeah. Here, I think I can go like this for now.
Nice.
Now you guys should be able to, I think, and it still should be fine with OBS. Yeah.
I was able to hear it in Discord.
Oh, do you have my stream?
I turned your stream volume up when you pulled it up.
Okay.
I don't know if chat can hear it or not.
You turned out great. I think it's your best one yet. David,
David, look at this.
Wait,
Look.
chat. Can you guys hear the audio from this, from the tapes?
Yeah, I just checked. It can be heard on stream.
Okay, cool.
Look. Arr, arr, arr.
Okay, so do we think this is his first birthday then? Is my first question.
Yeah.
I think logic would dictate that it should be.
Yeah.
Happy
For sure.
birthday, buddy.
Happy birthday,
There's one
sweetie.
candle.
Mommy made this special for you.
That's
We
true.
hear a crying baby.
Wow. Fiona, he turned out great. I think it's your best one yet. David, look at this. Look. Arr, arr, arr. Ahoy there. Shiver me
So-
timbers.
My first question about this being his first birthday then is that we know he got the tiger plush from his first birthday based on Moon.exe, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess it could just be in one of these, but I find it weird that they're, accentuating the Foxy / Roxy puppet and not the tiger plush.
Maybe the Foxy Roxy puppet was a gift and Edwin was harassing the child with it, and so he
Fiona took it away.
didn't really like it anymore. Yeah, and they replaced it with a white tiger.
Well, I mean, my thought is there are clearly unopened presents. I don't think this is a present. I don't think this is a first birthday present. I think this is an activity they're doing. Like, let's play with them with a little puppet before we open our presents and do the cake.
I see. That would make sense.
Enrichment time.
I guess, yeah, we know how the rest of this goes, so we'll skip to the second birthday one, because this is the important one, right?
Yeah.
I mean, no, yeah, it is. He does explicitly say he's 2 years old in this.
Yo, Proto Fredbear's in your chat right now.
Proto
Come
Fredbear.
You're missing it.
What?
Yeah, he wants us to
Just give
come
me a
get them
minute.
out of the
I
MCM.
had the best idea.
Okay.
Put you into
Well,
Fredbear's
this is the
Hammer
one.
Diner.
Bigger than the Cleanovac.
that's great, honey, but
Why did he have two of the same picture right next to each other? Bro's a freak.
It's a really good question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Party.
David's 2 years old. He won't remember a thing.
That's not the point. We have guests.
Besides, he's got plenty more birthdays. Next year will
That's
be
another
even
thing
better.
to point out is they have guests.
Yeah. I think I was talking with Corey last night, and I think we were talking about the idea. It would be funny if it's William and Michael down below, because Michael and David should be around the same age. So it'd be funny if Edwin invited William over.
Maybe. My thought would have been like, shouldn't at least one of them have family members?
Yeah. I guess
Where are either of the parents' parents? Where are the grandparents at?
Well, we know where Edwin's dad is,
yeah.
or where he.
Well,
is, I
yeah,
guess.
but like Fiona has parents,
Look, this is these
perhaps
are
even siblings,
the
cousins.
grandparent that exists.
something?
The one.
Well, and we know Edwin was friends kind of with his employees, right? Because he goes, I miss my friends, I miss our friends. And, he invites them all to dinner or whatever, like old times, he says.
Mm. Flip side saying in game these are two different pictures. One of them's a wedding picture.
Mm.
Oh.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
I wonder if it was
cut off
just
the
a
idea.
mistake.
What was a mistake? One of these?
Just like having the double.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah,
what
yeah,
Flip was saying, that it's a error. What were you saying right before that, Professor? Sorry, I forgot.
Just that some of the friends could have been employees.
Mm. Yeah,
They do
Edwin-
force employees to come to the.
Yeah, to his last birthday party at least. So it
Yeah,
would make
and
sense
Fiona
if-
was close with them as well. A lot of the employees, like she was kind of the star when it came to employee management and.
Yeah, so yeah.
You guys heard the voice? It's the Mr. Helpful. I think it's like the executive Mr. Helpful in one of the areas that you have to go back to, like, one of the kind of hidden ones. I can't remember where exactly it was, but where Edwin's like, hey guys, I know it's been a while, hello fellow employees, where my wife is dead. Why don't you all come up to the house for dinner at 8 o'clock, like that? Have you guys seen that one?
It is not ringing a bell. Here's the thing. I know
I
I've
don't think
listened to
so.
all of them because I posted every freaking voice line in the in the game files on that day, but my goodness, I was on a 19-hour stream. I've blocked out that entire day. Like I don't remember any of it.
God. 19 is crazy.
Yeah, I was on T-Dreads' stream.
Yeah.
Am I hallucinating? Let me try to look it up. Hang on.
I believe you.
Yeah, it might
Oh,
be
I don't
useful to
believe
look
you.
at the helpful logs too, to trying to suss out a timeline. for this.
Somebody in chat is echoing you right now, probably before you say it on stream. There's a secret Mr. Helpful message where Edwin invites his employees to his house and talks about how Fiona would always enjoy times like that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, good. I'm not crazy. Thanks, random chatter.
It's in the showroom area when you send them to admin. Apparently.
Ah.
So, Cleanovac is already made before his second birthday.
Yes, and this is 72 at the latest.
Yeah, so...
Based on the admin logs, placing his 5th birthday in 75, or, some people.
So I was looking at it earlier.
People believe that's his 6th.
I could pull that up too. I think it's in the second one here. Yeah, this here is pretty clearly a 5, I would say. I don't see any other way to read that.
I see a 5 there.
But I was thinking before this memo was issued in 75 at least, but we don't know when this happened per se, because the memo could have been issued later.
No, because it says on July 21st, 1975, Murray's Costume Manor hosted a party to celebrate the opening of our new research and development floor.
Yeah, you're right. This would be 3 days later. The memo is issued 3 days after the event, 21st to 24th. That makes sense.
Are there dates on the return orders memos that we get? Do those have years?
Pretty quickly. Oh my goodness, guys, your in theory is canon.
No. His theory.
I don't know if I have the returns. Are you talking about these?
They're on a separate one, I think.
Let's see.
Or no, the returns were logs. The returns were logs.
Right, yeah, the
mailbox.
I have those.
I don't remember if they had years on them or not. I thought some of them had dates.
I don't think so.
It's 75, Withered Circle. Get it right.
Piss of 74. Yeah, it's definitely 75.
Frodo Fredbear, did that guy piss on you?
Oh no.
Oh, Glitch Stinger is saying in-game it seems to be more unreadable, but I think we can use the actual file itself as a pretty strong indication. Yeah, so 75 is when R&D opens. It's likely that's when the Fazbear project starts, because as you read here...
When the stuff for the diner starts, I would say, for sure.
Yeah, and shamelessly urinated on the new equipment. So the equipment in R&D was new. I guess it could be other stuff in R&D, but it seems like, if it was started before R&D was started, that would mean that it wouldn't be new equipment, and if it was started after, then it would place the creation of the Fazbear project even later, which would be strange to me.
I really think he started working with them before this, and he got such a good deal on whatever the first thing was that he went, yeah, I can dedicate an entire, underground, weird R&D place to this.
Well, yeah, so if
I'll definitely make my money back on it.
If this is 75, so July 75, right? So it should be, right here. There is a small spike right in the centerpiece right there. So I think we can...
They, paid him a deposit before he finished the job or whatever?
Yeah. I think they probably paid him...
There must be some kind of deposit, because it says he owes them money.
Mm-hmm.
God, he sucks.
Yeah, so this right here is the Fazbear project. Yeah, so I guess I'll go back to the not the therapy tapes. God, I'm from God, David. I'm so cooked. I'll go back to this here because I want to listen to the rest of these to figure out if these actually line up with all of his birthdays or if they're just like not
besides, you've got
necessarily
plenty more
back to back.
birthdays.
You know.
Next year will be even better. Well,
Next year will be
Hurry up.
even better. And this is
We're
in
going to
72,
Wow.
presumably.
With or without you.
yeah.
Yeah. So this would be 72 if all these line up with the birthdays.
How many candles were on that cake? Go back.
Happy birthday, buddy.
It looked like 2, but yeah, run it back.
Do a little frame by frame. Yeah.
I'm seeing 2. Yeah, that's 2.
3.
Three.
No, I'm not seeing a third one.
Look, you can see this is
Oh,
the
look at
outline
the
of
third-
one. This is the outline of another. There's outline of a third right there. Oh wait, you guys can't see this on my screen, can you? Hey, look. You
Oh,
could
okay.
see this.
Oh,
This
y'all
is
got.
the other-
There's one outline
see
right
it.
here.
I
An
don't
outline
see
here.
that as another candle. I see that as part of the rim around the cake.
Pan through it. See if we can get.
Yeah, see if we can
he
get.
kinda
Yeah,
moves
there
the
might
camera
be.
and we can get some more.
She's gonna move that camera over to the right in a second.
Yeah. Oh. I
Oh my
see
goodness, it
there.
is! I see it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. So we have canon second and third birthdays in a row at least.
Yeah, so first, second, and third are at least in a row. We can verify that
Okay.
for certain at this point. I mean, maybe the candles are inaccurate, but that would be crazy.
That would be wild.
What would be the point? That'd just be
Tedra's
evil.
appearance.
Tea
Happy
dreads.
birthday, buddy.
Tiberius dreads.
Wait for Mama.
Yeah, the
Mama
candle.
loves presents.
Oh, true. I thought you were talking about it in chat. I was like, what?
David.
Also, I will say his birthday being in early December.
Oh. Sorry, I just
And-
realized this is a Fredbear's Family Diner pizza box. So Fredbear's already exists in 73.
Yep.
Ooh. Okay.
So this being in early December and her going and dying at Fall Fest, either like the kid hasn't grasped the idea that his mom is gone, or he's I see dead peopling it, or Edwin
I
just never
mean,
told him.
He's 3, and it's been what, a month, and also she like went on a
Or
trip.
I would,
She's
yeah, I was gonna say
"Bye,
like
see you later."
because they were setting up for Fall Fest, which you would assume would start sometime in October.
Yeah, I would assume Fall
Yeah, I
Fest would
think
be like a
it'd be the end,
Halloween
like
week
Halloween.
type thing. Like the week of Halloween probably is when
Yeah.
Fall Fest
It
happen.
would depend because they're talking about like I don't know, the branding on it does not look very Halloween oriented necessarily, and a lot of these fall
That's
festivals
true.
go on for the majority of fall if they're not specifically Halloween oriented. So it could have been earlier.
Yeah.
So
Could've been
I
it's
see-
been
Later too. It could have been in November if you're still.
I see
I mean, if
Terminal
you're-
asking about the
well
Fazbear
to
project.
set up for it would be the thing.
Terminal's
Oh, yeah,
asking
yeah.
about the Fazbear project. Wouldn't Fiona need to be alive for the start of it because they use her designs? It could very well just be that the designs were made.
Yeah, that's
by
why I'm saying like that
M1.
spike is in. No, I don't think so. The spike is in the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
And she dies in the end of the year. So if they commission this project, she makes the designs and then she dies, that would also give him a reason to be very upset that they wouldn't use the last design she made before she passed away.
Ooh.
So
Ouch.
that would have to
Oof.
mean that the Fazbear project started before R&D, right? That would be the assumption then.
Yeah, that's what I've been saying the whole time. Is like they started the project, but they didn't necessarily make R&D until
So,
later.
Here's my thing about
Yeah,
that.
there's no way he began with the giant underground thing. That's after like the giant spike. He did
Yeah.
really well.
We know there's a
Like-
history of making suits for these guys and giving them springlock suits and putting teenagers in them from the bathroom.
And also, how would his dad be able to warn him about Henry and William if he hadn't worked with them in some capacity? So they might
Well,
have
I know that
more of a history than.
I don't
know
I don't
that-
think his dad has to have worked with them. I think he could just notice, hey, this company is going around. Every company they work with is going under and then they're buying it out. Don't work with these people, they'll do it to you too.
True.
I know that there are some who think that the they that is being warned about are the employees, and that Edwin's dad just didn't like the employees. But I think that doesn't make a lot of sense to me personally.
I don't think so.
Because we don't really get any indication that Edwin didn't like the employees or that his dad didn't like the employees.
Well, there
I
is
would
the
need to
point
look
later
them up.
on when he gets like really paranoid.
Yeah, but that's like after events
Yeah.
happen. Although I guess you could say if he's paranoid at that point and then says dad was right and he's not liking the employees, that it would be his dad warned him about the employees. But I think it's way more likely that it's being talked about Fazbear, because Fazbear is the fall of MCM, you know.
Yeah, one thing I noticed, because the logs and stuff are numbered in the files, and there are a couple of outlier numbers that play first in my video of Edwin's audio logs, but after those, you can hear, like, chronologically him descend into madness if you just, like, listen to that video, and it's kind of wild.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So
Into madness. I said the thing.
So if this is Fredbear's, and we assume that Fiona started the Fazbear project, Fiona was there for the start of the Fazbear project at least because she made the designs, then that would mean that if she died in the 73, which would line up with this...
It would line up with the birthdays, yep.
It would line up with the birthdays. It would also line up with the fall of, 73, Fiona dies here, collapses. I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that would mean...
is M1 showing up then in that graph?
So that's my
Well,
next
M1 wasn't sold.
thing.
That's the thing. That's not going to show up in the earnings graph. That wasn't a product that he marketed. That was something he made, and then it started behaving like his wife, and he went, "Oh my goodness, wife, you're back. My beautiful wife is back in my beautiful house with my beautiful son."
I think that M1,
He's so stupid.
or at least
I hate
maybe
him.
not M1 specifically as we know it, would be developed for, commercial use. But I think the Mimic and the program was developed for commercial use. Whether or not it got there to that point, I don't think so. But I think that it was started that way. 'Cause some people think that M1 was made specifically to replace Fiona, and I think that's horse talk because, because the endoskeleton itself, as we know with M1, is that it is designed to fit into any costume and take on the personalities of any character, which is a crazy thing to do, to give to your robot if its sole purpose is to replace your dead wife. That feels like it was like, this is a commercial product that I am now repurposing because I realized it has other uses,
To me, all right, so here's a fun fact. Why is it M1? Computers and developers, programmers tend to, because computers do, count from 0.
So you're thinking there might be a M0?
Mm-hmm.
I think
Now,
it was
M0
Rytos.
might be whatever program goes into these previous inventions that can change their shape and size, that can learn by watching you. Like the clean-a-vac, the coat rack, the coffee machine. These could all be basically the M0. And then you combine them all into one thing, give it a body, and you've got M1.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Rytos said, they said something similar about the M0 kind of being the little amalgamation, scattered AI across all of his inventions. And then, he puts it together and makes the for real first iteration of the Mimic.
So, Samuel, I see you in chat saying that doesn't make sense. In my computer science classes for my degree, we were specifically taught to count starting from 0 because computers do. So if you are making these programs and making this stuff all the time, that is going to be the habit you're in. And I would say game devs would know that.
I think even if not, him naming it M1 would either imply it's the second iteration or that he planned on making more afterwards, because otherwise he would just name it M, like mimic. Putting a number on it implies a desire for more numbers, which I
Yeah.
think wouldn't come around until after you've already made a second one.
Yeah.
So here's the thing that was bugging me. The whole reason I wanted to do this is because if David dies, if David's born 70, because, I guess we can go back to the thing. So I want to double check, because we have at least up to 73. I guess that's the only important ones, because we know he died 75. Although I guess you could say the fourth and last one are like the same event, maybe.
Do you guys think he died on his 5th or his 6th birthday?
5th.
Yeah, I think he probably died on his 5th.
I know game theory. Thomas Theory believes it's the 6th.
Oh, does he? I haven't seen that one.
Yeah.
I've seen people talking about, because the cake on the belated birthday, whatever, has
it's
6
the 6 candles.
And they're kind of thinking that there's an unfilmed birth, which would probably be the fourth one after, Fiona dies. He makes the mimic. He just doesn't even film the birthday.
The issue is that there's no indication for that.
Yeah. There was there is that little drawing
of the cake in the achievement icon, yeah.
No, not
him
the
hanging
not
out with the suit.
Yeah. With the, I think that cake has four candles on it.
That cake does have 4
hanging
candles.
Out. But that could just be, him hanging out at his birthday.
Yeah. So, okay. So, we know for a fact Fredbear's was around for his 3rd birthday, at the least.
Yeah.
I think it was probably around for longer. But...
Not all gone, buddy.
Oh, yeah, you can very clearly see through.
We went frame by frame.
Mommy's gone, not all gone, is interesting.
Yeah.
Mommy will
with us.
always be here, watching over us. You better start opening. There's a lot to open. I gotta get back to work.
So I wonder if him saying I gotta get back to work is because it's already started to decline at this point, with the graph. Like, now he's stressed about sales.
Well, you wouldn't have that earnings graph at that moment, though.
That's true. I guess for him it would be 73 would be the end, right? So it should still just be at the peak, maybe dipping a tiny bit, but it should still be at the relative peak of sales.
He's just a workaholic, I would say. He was doing the same thing on David's 2nd birthday.
That's just how he is.
To try to drag him out of the room. Now she's not around to tell him to behave, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you, Absolex. Edwin doesn't know how to emotionally comfort his son. David crying scares him, so he retreats to what he knows.
That's true.
Womp womp.
I miss you.
I miss you also feels like that's fresh.
You don't miss her.
Keep
you
looking.
miss what
It's
she
around
did
here
for
somewhere.
you.
Where is it?
Oh, you're cold.
Is he blind in this? How can he not see the
Getting
playground?
hotter. Hotter. You're burning up.
Wow.
Unless he's the one recording. You think David's holding the camera here?
No, I don't.
Is he so tall?
Happy birthday, buddy.
Maybe
Happy
Edwin's holding
birthday,
him up or
sweetie.
something? I don't know.
Okay, I need you to take over now and make dinner.
This is also interesting.
I'd say the ball is thrown by the child.
Yeah, that makes sense, actually. Well, then, is the present the ball?
Yeah, when did he get the ball? It goes tiger blocks ball or tiger ball block?
I don't remember.
The order?
Here's what I find interesting. There's no gate here at this point. Like, there's a gate in-game, but there's not at this point in time. So that's strange. I don't know if that means anything, per se, but...
take over now and make dinner? I gotta get back to it.
So Fiona's
That'd be
also
stupid.
M1 by this point. Do we know this is his
Yeah.
birthday for certain? I would assume so, based on. Well, it also is.
Well, these are called birthday reels in the files specifically as well.
Yeah, it's also
I would
like.
say from context clues, he gave him a slide with a giant bow on it. I think we can say it's a birthday pretty confidently.
Yeah, but also, this isn't snowy, you know, or like, this looks like spring or summer. Not that I.
How cold does it get in Utah?
Well,
Why would it
evidently
be
cold
labeled a
enough to
birthday
slide.
reel? Is the thing.
I don't know. Yeah, I guess. I also believe this is his 4th birthday. I'm just trying to think of alternatives, you know, just to get all the pieces in.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So 4th birthday, we'll say Fiona's already M1 as the endoskeleton, just roaming around, right? Like she's just outside right now.
Yeah.
And there's no fence on the playground. That's one thing I've heard people say, like, oh, maybe M1 killed David because, you know, when Edwin told her to go get David, she like grabbed him through the bars and pulled him through and killed him or something because he's a robot and doesn't understand. There's no fence though, so that.
That I said that, and I was talking about the bars in the middle bit. on the top.
Buddy,
Oh, you mean like up here?
Yeah. If he was like up on the top and like the robot has the order bring child, robot goes out, grabs child, pulls. Like that's potentially the case. I don't think it needs to be though. It doesn't really, like, either way he haunts that endoskeleton.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, cuz it's either it killed him or it's just a repeat of Charlie.
I would say I don't know about like if he, commanded M1 right now in her very robotic state as she is in this tape to like get child, she'd do the very basic task of get child and not try to keep it alive. But at the time of the last tape, she's pretty Fiona-fied. I mean, she made a cake of her own accord, or at least was not instructed to bake
Yeah.
that cake. So I don't
Like
think
I'm
she
with
would
that. That's why I was saying like it would
murder a
have to be
child.
because of an order. Like if the order like activates the more robotic part of like follow order, rather than
Yeah, okay.
the kind of freer will sort of part of it. Which calling it
Yeah.
any program free will feels like a stretch, but you know what I mean.
Free
Yeah,
will.
like it overrides her other.
I say keep him locked up.
But that was from the standpoint of like if Fiona's spirit was still around, if that whole, she's still with us, she's watching over us, and the kid not grasping that she's gone, being like, go get mommy, she loves presents, because he's like seeing her ghost, because like, classic ghost lore, kids can see ghosts.
Yeah.
And then
Wow.
she inhabits this body that's made pretty much for her. And then so she's acting more like herself without an order, but then when given an order, it goes back to this very robotic thing. Who just joined?
We got glitch in here.
Hey Glitch, we are streaming, just so you know. Don't say anything sus.
Goddamn.
Yeah, we're just figuring out Timeline MCM right now. Yeah, so I think this is the 4th birthday. I think that what you're talking about, Fiona being like the robot itself is not. I wouldn't say the program is simplistic enough that it would be like get David, okay, kill him. Like it's advanced enough that it's like making cakes and stuff like that. So, and yeah, I think Edwin talking to David about, she's not really gone. She'll be here with us, in a way, is indicative of, like, ghost shenanigans, especially in FNAF. Like, that's a very natural thing to say just in general, but when applying it to the context of FNAF, it's like, all right, guys, come on, we know ghosts are real. He's talking about Fiona always being with us. It seems like it should be ghost stuff. So, I don't know. I guess the question is, yeah, Epsil's saying she's not really gone. Do we think that means M1 is already in making at that point?
That might be what he's going off to work on.
Yeah. So if that would be his 3rd birthday, that would be just a couple months after her death, right?
Yeah.
You know, she dies fall. A couple months later, M1 and
I
73.
I disagree with the idea of fire destroying remnant.
I also disagree
We've
with
seen
that.
it fail multiple times.
That's true.
Yeah, so this is the thing I am thinking of, like, this is the cursed option, but what I think this is indicating, this is what Samuel's pointing out here, is that you would have gotten inspiration to make Fiona more like, make M1 more like Fiona in that moment. I think that's very well could be the case. So if the Cleanovac is 72, right, sometime before 72, at least before December 72, what makes the most sense to me is that this spike then is the Cleanovac. So
That's what I think.
I'm not sure why it would dip here. This would be right around David's...
I think it's when all the mimic AI starts going haywire, like with all the returns that we see.
Yeah. I could check I have a video pulled up for the logs, so we can go through them to see if we can gather any information about that. So we can check then if they have dates. But so there's a dip, and then 73, Fiona dies in the fall. So like right around here, and then David's birthday, he's talking about, you know, he's doing some kind of project that he needs to work on. So the question is, this spike lines up almost exactly with when the creation of M1 should be. So do we think M1 was affecting the sales of MCM in some way?
I mean, it depends on how long M1
Well,
was
we have
in production, too.
we have the fact that he would be working on it presumably on his own, because there's the whole conversation of like, you can't tell anyone about me, that he has with the robot. We also know that there are employees who heard them talking down in R&D and go, I heard Fiona. Like, why would he lie about that? Like, what is going on? Did they fake her death for insurance money? And I think it like ends off with like, oh, I never trusted him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just found it. Have you heard Fiona? I heard it again this morning when I was down in R&D, very clearly through one of the vents. It was Fiona's voice, I swear it on my mother's grave. I heard her and Edwin laughing and joking. Why would Edwin lie about Fall Fest? Did they fake her death for insurance money? I never did trust them.
Yeah. So I see Snake Master talking in the chat about M1 wouldn't need to affect the sales because Edwin was already like obsessive with work. But I would say that if the Cleanovac is in, you know, the first initial spike out of the red towards the tail end of 70, early 71, then it would stand to reason to me that the rest of the inventions would be being made from 71 to 72. And I wanted to go through the what do you call it? The MCM catalog tapes for the advertisements to see if we can line stuff up with those, because I think that'd be interesting. Yeah. But
when you're saying coming out of the red, are you talking about the first time it comes up out of there? Or
yeah,
the
first.
time?
Apparently, people can't see my mouse on stream, so I was just trying to describe it.
Okay, so the first time. I wanted to make sure.
Yeah, the first time it comes out of the red, and then it dips again, and then huge spike in 73. So I think the 73 would have to line up with the creation of the Mimic. That's the only thing we know happened in 73, like, for a fact. And, you know, since we know the Mimic is like a combination of like all of his past tech, essentially, and it's like the perfect combination of it, it'd make sense that 73, you know, if that's when the Mimic is made, that's what the sales line up with. But then it's like, you know, what's the deal with that? People aren't supposed to know about the Mimic. It's not supposed to be like, you know, unless there were like hundreds of mimic endoskeletons around that Fazbear has been using, but that doesn't seem to be the case.
I think the jump has to do with Fazbear Entertainment in some way or another. Either since it's, that early, probably something to do with Fredbear's Diner. Maybe when he provided the Springlock suits for them, like he says, we could make teenagers wear them like we always do. Maybe the Springlock suits just were that Fazbear paid that much for them. I feel like that's what the giant spike is. Like Mama Kato said, his inventions kind of go haywire. They dip into the red that second time. He panics, and then he goes and he works with those two people, even though his dad warned him about them.
Yeah. I suppose so. So
Now-
then that would mean that in the birthday tape, when we see
That's why he's working so hard, is because it's gone into the red. That's why he won't come to the
Yeah.
party in the second one. He's panicking.
oh. Let me see.
He sounds kind of optimistic in the second one. He's like, "Ooh, a
Yeah,
new
we're
thing,
we're
even
in the
bigger than
year.
the
He's like,
Back."
yeah, I've got something. I've got something. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna save us. This is what's gonna save us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then
He's-
he doesn't.
I'd love to. I know there are some who do this, like licensed psychiatrists and therapists and stuff, who like make videos where they go over fictional characters and like what diagnosis they might end up with if they went to like seek psychiatric help. I would be so intrigued, so intrigued to see somebody
He
analyze
has
Edwin.
OCD.
That'd be good. So if this spike then is from Fazbear's involvement when Edwin starts working with them, that would have to mean that him having the Fredbear's pizza box here would just be like he just ordered for them and he's not already involved with them, right? Or I guess it would. This is his third
Oh
birthday.
no, this is the third. Yeah, he'd already be. Do we see anything Fazbear in the first two
I'll go back and see.
at all?
We just see a hallway in the second one.
Buddy,
don't
Happy
know about the
birthday,
first one.
sweetie. Mommy made this
This
special
one's pretty
for
explicitly
you.
just the cake.
wow. Fiona, he turned out great. I think
This is a blue table with white chairs. I think it's the exact same table we see.
Yeah, it is.
Is it? Right here.
Isn't that the one in the kitchen
Not-
in Edwin's house?
Yeah.
So it's got the sewing machine on it now instead of being used for.
hold
Presents.
on, buddy.
Which is interesting because the cake is still there. So he's literally just having David get his cake next to his work. Which I guess,
God, he sucks.
Yeah. lines up with the TD saying just ask the Edwin character AI.
Watch over us.
Yeah, I don't think there's. Yeah, because this is just the hallway. Unless. No, I think those are just books in the background.
Yeah, the third one is like immediately after Fiona dies. That's kind of like right at the top of the very big spike at the graph.
And that's
then-
that's when we see the pizza box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's more
If
evidence.
If that spike is Fazbear, and oh boom, now we're seeing proof of Fazbear immediately, what would be following that spike? I do think that makes sense.
So that means that Fazbear immediately, their first thing was the Fazbear project, right? If Fiona was working on the Fazbear project.
Well, I'm thinking that initially, as everyone always like goes with, these characters were designed as suits. Like the first iteration of these characters would have been as suits.
Like
And
fabric
then-
suits, yeah.
Yeah, like the mascot suits that Murray's is known for.
Mm-hmm.
And then it progresses from regular cloth mascot suits into springlock suits into animatronics.
Yeah.
And then we get the
Because
Fazbear project.
because
yeah,
Edwin's
after the
springlock
spring
suits don't have endoskeletons in them. They are not working as both animatronic and suit. There is no animatronic parts being held back by these springlocks.
Yeah, I almost think that it was possible that the original intention of the mimic was to fit in the springlock suits. Because it has some of the similarities, like being drawn to sound and stuff like that. and the fact that it can like change shape and stuff like that, like it gets into big top, so it's obviously like, you know, it just does that. So I think you can make a case for the mimic endoskeleton being made for the springlock suits. Like that was the original commercial purpose of them, potentially. But I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, that's another thing, is that to put together something like that. I know in the books it's like, oh, he did this in like 20 days or whatever. Nonsense. Like,
Right, he blacks out and makes the most advanced AI to ever exist in the world.
Yeah.
Sure.
yeah, I don't think so, buddy. I think this was already like being worked on.
Yeah. So
Especially considering he would have already been working on like animatronic endoskeletons, just like regular ones for
the rest of his
I know what the
costumes.
company's called. It's literally your name. Hello?
Costumes. Murray's
For
costume.
Fazbear.
Oh.
Like that's what R&D would have been. So like the idea was out there already.
Yeah.
Right? It was like here's the designs, we get our mascot costumes, and we get the spring locks. We want something a little more. Let's look into R&D. And so at that point, like animatronic endoskeletons are on the mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that
I
I
would
think
be
know.
all the
the
pieces
mimic.
were kind of laying around. Like he had all the AI from all the pieces from his different inventions, the stretching and the copying and the, intelligence. And then he's working on animatronics and stuff. And then he's like, oh, yeah, he's like, sort of making that for commercial use probably. And then he just kind of morphs it into a nanny bot conveniently
saying
after Fiona dies.
people are saying the audio.
At flip side, they are spring locks. They have spring locks in them.
They are
And the
oh no.
Sorry, I was just
the name of them is like Captain Springlock. They're in they're in a folder for Springlock suits in the files.
Mama God, the audio is going crazy.
Is it for you on Discord as well?
no, it's not for me.
No, I'm just reading chat. I can hear normally. What is
Here, let me
I baked it myself for David's special day.
let's see, is it still double?
Hey.
Mimic auto?
Interesting. Is it still robotic for chat? Does it still sound strange? You say something, Mamakado, I guess?
Hello. How's the audio?
Hi, chat. I'm not the mimic.
Bro, what the hell? I fix one thing and then it just blows up, I guess.
Are we all mimic? Am I mimic too? Oh no.
I don't know, I hope not.
Everyone but Fazbear's robotic?
Well,
Wait,
Both guests. Okay.
is it now?
Have we been
And,
fixed? Did you
am I
fix us?
fixed?
Okay, for some reason, one of the audio sources suddenly started working when it wasn't before. So
Oh, the Discord one suddenly began to work?
yeah, I don't know what that's
Oh,
about.
no. Okay.
Okay, cool.
Not mimicology.
Yeah, so the whole reason I wanted to do this is because I wanted to get a timeline of MCM, yes, but I wanted to do it so I could get a timeline for Fazbear. So the whole thing with
But you are Fazbear, shouldn't you know already?
listen, I got some memory problems. I'm trying to work back on what I got. So
Ralph coded.
they have the
I disagree
Fazbear
with you, Flipside. I
project.
think it has to have spring locks to be a spring lock suit.
They have the Fazbear project already, right? Fiona started working on the Fazbear project before she died, and we see Fredbear's Family Diner pizza boxes. So the Fazbear project was started when Fredbear's was already here.
Yeah.
So then the spike is from Fazbear's involvement with the
It
Freddy's
weirds me
project.
out that the Fazbear project was involved with MCM for so long.
Yeah. That's why.
No, this was absolutely a plot to destroy him.
Yeah. Because my initial thought process was that I almost wondered if the spike was the like MCM getting successful, and then Fazbear, like William, took notice and was like, no, I'm not gonna let that happen. You know, I'm not gonna let people be more successful than me. So then he got involved after MCM's spike. But the only thing that would line up with this spike here would be the mimic's creation and Fazbear itself.
Yeah, and she very specifically says you can't tell them about me. Meaning that, you know, no one ends up knowing about the mimic.
Yeah, do you think the them in that case is everyone or just Fazbear?
I think it's everyone, because then there's the employees being like, oh my goodness, did you hear Fiona? Like, this is crazy. Like, they totally faked her death.
Yeah, the them is definitely in reference to, like, employees, I think. And obviously I would assume Fazbear too.
I think it's in reference to everyone. It's like, you cannot tell anyone about me. No one's gonna understand. No one's gonna get it. And part of that is just like, logically, yeah, if I went up to somebody and said, hey, you know, my insert family member here died, and I made a robot, and this robot is them for realsies, you gotta believe me.
They already don't like
You're gonna
Edwin.
sound a
They were
little
gonna
insane.
throw him in the crazy house.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be just like in the novels when the aunt is like, no, you are going crazy. This is not your daughter. Stop it. You've got a living son. You should go be a dad to your living alive son instead of trying to remake your daughter with robots.
Classic dad and FNAF move.
Truly.
Hey, what if there were 4 mimics?
There's like 1 billion mimics, don't you know?
What if the mimic coming out of the closet, and there were 4 of them?
4 mimics. Whoa.
Here's a question I'm sure you guys have already asked.
Yeah.
When do you think the mimic was made?
Well, it has to have been between 73 and 74, just between David's 3rd and 4th birthdays.
I mean, it's not impossible that the mimic itself was made beforehand and just wasn't utilized in any way until that point. But I think it was probably...
Yeah, when you say the mimic, that can refer to so many things. It's got a couple different iterations. So, like, pre-Fiona-ification, the babysitter version.
Yeah.
And then the pre-babysitter version, whatever, you know, it was originally intended to be.
So do we agree that M1 could have been made after Fiona's death?
I believe it was. I think when she's dead on David's 3rd birthday, that's what he's got to go work on. That's what he's saying, oh, I got to go get back to work, is making the mimic endoskeleton.
But then why give it technology that would be utilized in commercial usage, unless he deadass made it for his wife and it was the other way around, or he was like, I can also market this? Because that would be crazy.
Because he introduces M1 to David after Fiona's death, right? And obviously he's going to be using it to babysit David. But then when Fiona's still alive, they have to hire a babysitter.
Yeah, Snake Master's got a good point. I guess based on the Mimic's blueprints in the strange basement room, it was probably made after because of the 4625 signal being down there.
Yeah, that's what I would imagine.
That's what I was thinking as well. And that signal, 4625, is the frequency for an actual radio station known as the ghost radio station. And the idea of being able to use radio waves to communicate with ghosts, is really common because you've got things like spirit boxes and stuff like that where it flips through frequencies and ghosts are able to pick words from those. But those are always picked from like pre-recorded things or things being broadcast, which is why when he dials in 4625, what he gets is something that was already recorded in the past.
Do you guys think there are multiple endoskeletons? Do you think M1 and M2 are different endoskeletons or the same?
I don't think there'd be any reason for there not to be multiple endoskeletons, but I'm not sure on if there actually are or not.
I believe that there are multiple endoskeletons.
I think I also lean towards there being multiple.
I'm of the mindset that there's just one at the moment, but he was definitely going to be making a second one to house M2.
So my issue with that is that David's room is sealed off. That vent cannot open until you put in the tapes, and the door is boarded up. Presumably, Edwin boarded up the door. So how is there a mimic outside of the room talking to Edwin as he presumably dies, or at least loses his legs, and then is taken away from the home, if the mimic's boarded up in the room? It doesn't make sense.
I guess then, do you think that the endoskeleton was made before David's death or after? If there are two.
Well, he was trying to make it work. You know, I don't know why it worked before. I can't get it to work again. Implying he was attempting to make more mimics and get them to function. There's M1 saying M2 is based on her code, so he's putting the same programs into them. And then this one works because he uses, well, I mean, obviously, like, Mimic Fiona, like, that's in a computer now, no longer in an endoskeleton, so if he recycled those parts, you know, that process he invented, to just, you know, all right, let me wipe this, get a new program in there, you know, because she keeps asking me to rebuild my son, and it's getting kind of weird. And then it turns into his son.
What I think, when I first found the secret room in the basement White Tiger area, it's got all of the mimic blueprints and everything. When I saw that, my first thought was, oh, this is where he was trying this is where he was trying to make M2. Like you said, you know, he's like, I'm trying, I don't know, it's not working, I don't know what's going on. I thought that those were his failed attempts. And then I kind of think that he sort of takes F10's brain out of its brain and puts it, or not F10. He takes M1's consciousness and puts it into M10 so that then he can use that body for M2 because that body was working and he wasn't able to get it to work again.
Yeah. Man, okay, so
There has to be at least two, just because of the one being boarded up in David's room. And there being, like, obviously one present outside of David's room upon Edwin's death.
I also think there are two, but I'm not sure on the specifics of it.
I think there's more, honestly. Because I think the one in R&D, we wake up when we go down there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Like, I think, like, there's no way that it strapped all that crap to itself.
Yeah.
If
Well,
you
I
look at the
mean,
way the stuff is attached to it, that's
Oh.
not like it threw on a suit.
it built itself legs, so it's pretty handy.
She did say that it followed him down there.
That's true.
She's also lying to us the entire time.
Yeah. That's also true.
What if it's like
Very good. Very good point.
the glam rock endos? He did make multiple mimics, and it just has a consciousness shared between them in different areas.
Yeah, I suppose like that could be the case.
Yeah. Okay. So that, I guess at that point we're talking about past the graph here. But what I want to know is, when do we think Edwin took over the company? Presumably tail end of 70, right? Based on this graph.
You think him taking over the company brings it out of the red? Then why would he be worried about failing his dad?
Dude, that's what I said. He's like, I can't fill his shoes, and his shoes are negative earnings. What are you talking
Well,
about?
in that case, I wonder if we see it 67, it drops and then flatlines for a bit before it starts climbing out. Do we think that then is
It could be
him taking over? So that would mean
he meets Fiona
when his dad is working.
while his how long do we think they know each other before they? I don't think there's anything to indicate, really.
Well, it sounds like they meet because he's like, just shows up and is like, "Can I use your voice?" And then she's like, "Hold on, let's restart. Who are you?" So,
My bro is definitely autistic.
yeah.
I'm allowed to say that.
I think we all are.
People are talking about the red. I don't know if that necessarily has to be the red itself is like in the negative, but like regardless, you could still look at the sales of the graph and see there's that dip there. So, you know.
Also, a lot of companies do their profit and earnings calculations in a very specific way so that when they do their taxes, they can report negative earnings and negative profits despite being extremely successful businesses that should absolutely be paying a whole lot of taxes to be paying their fair share.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past him.
Another possibility is that we see this graph was made at least in 75. So it could be that the red is now what is considered bad, but might not have been back then. Like, you know, say you're, you know, the amount you have to pay to your employees and stuff like that goes up as, you know,
Well, what I was
business
suggesting
spikes.
would be that you could say it coming out of the red would be Edwin not being as business savvy as his father and not really knowing the trick of like, let me fudge these numbers so that I don't have to pay mega taxes.
You think he might have been intentionally like keeping it in the red Edwin's dad so that it would mess with taxes?
Yeah, because you can be an extremely successful business and you can look into it. There are a lot of extremely successful multi-million, even billion-dollar companies out there that somehow report a loss on their taxes.
Maybe that's why Edwin's dad was suspicious of Fazbear, because, you know, it takes one to know one.
They learned it from him.
Yeah. Okay, so
How long do you think it takes when Edwin's dad dies, you know, Fiona's like, "Hey, what do you want to do with the company? It's your company." And he's like, "Well, we could start making my inventions." How long do you think it takes from him saying that, like the immediate death of his father, to getting the Cleanovac and then having that success? Because that didn't happen like immediately. And surely he had some things in between
I'm
the
not
Cleanovac,
sure,
right?
man. The way this guy acts towards his wife and his son, how respectful of his father's memory do you think he's really gonna be? Like, bro's doing this shit like in a week. I
I meant more about like his physical ability to make a thing, less about the respect that, yeah, no, he doesn't care.
yeah, he
about
starts
me.
immediately, but like I think like the cleanovac, I don't think that took him long.
Well, so then my question is that if the dip at the end of 67 into 68 is when his dad died and when he took over, it seems like it took him about a year to like, you know, he was holding things down for about a year, and then stuff started to rise from that point, and then it spikes in 71. So like that's a whole what, 3 years between the death of his father, if we consider that dip to be the death, to when we assume the cleanovac was made.
That's plenty of time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. I guess
I will slander Edwin at every chance I get. He is the worst.
the thing
He's
that's,
not not the
Absolutely.
worst, but he's awful. I don't like him.
the thing that's throwing me off about that is that in that case, let me find it. If that were the case, then this commercial for the
Are you
cleanovac,
looking for the perfect vacuum cleaner? There are so many to
if this, you know, I mean, I guess this could just be much later because this should be David, right? So like the commercial could just come later,
choose from, but none of them.
or I guess just be metaphorical, not used for lore. I'm not sure. What do you guys think? Do you think the commercials are lore worthy, or do you think they're just,
Hold on, pop back over to the graph for me.
yeah?
They can. I think they can be used to estimate a timeline.
So what at what point are you saying the cleanovac commercial is happening where it's confusing for it to be David?
If the cleanovac is that big spike, the tail end of 70 into 71, then
Okay.
presumably the commercial would be around the same time the cleanovac was made, right?
All right.
But this, like, David would be a little baby
So that
infant
report-
boy if that were the case. If you were born in 70, at least.
I mean, Fiona.
Yeah,
has
but how is
blonde
she supposed
hair
to handle
here.
all this vacuum if she's got to be drawn holding a baby?
Yeah.
Does the kid do anything in the cleanovac commercial? Like really?
Wait, does what with the cleanovac?
Play the commercial. Let me see.
of
Like,
your home. Introducing the brand new
does the kid, like,
revolutionary advancement in vacuum
go anywhere, do
technology,
anything?
Murray's marvelous Cleanovac. Never before could a vacuum adjust its size to fit into hard-to-reach
He's so cute.
places. Patented
Oh,
Murray Tech allows you to clean
Probably
everything
not.
from the
It
biggest
probably
messes
couldn't be used to estimate a timeline, considering, basing off of this, the first invention was like the coat rack, right?
Yeah.
one size fits
Alright, I
In
guess
that
a stay
one,
up
like,
latte.
David is
what
just
you
a
really
baby.
need most in a vacuum cleaner.
Yeah, the other thing is that in this,
To the smallest crumbs,
Wait, where
biggest
is it?
messes.
this is the cake with 3 candles. Which would line up if this is little 3-year-old David here. I would say that fits. So
Well,
I guess,
I mean, we know that Cleanovac at least was before his second birthday, so it doesn't matter. This isn't accurate to his age because
yeah, it would just be the commercials
he
or
was less than 2 years old, no matter what. Because we see in that birthday tape where he's like even better than the Cleanovac on his second birthday. So Cleanovac had to be pre 2 years old. That's
yeah,
not a 2-year-old. So I'm gonna say that this is just
not
his depiction of his future happy nuclear family that never
yeah,
happened.
not diegetic to the time or whatever. But
Yeah.
okay, so then that makes me wonder though, because with the where is it, the mycelium men,
It's like having your very own band or a friend.
Wow.
Is that the FNAF 4 box?
that line right there, "You're my only friend," is repeated by the tiger in Secret of the Mimic. Like that's one
Also,
of
that
David's
was straight
voice
up
lines.
David's voice.
Yeah.
They got him to voice act in the commercial.
I think so. I think there's a couple of the commercial voice lines in the files that are labeled as David.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's almost like it feels like a logbook situation where it's like both, important to the lore but also not. Like,
So literally the FNAF 4 box behind him.
is this straight up his room? I don't remember. He's got the little.
There is like a chest in his room.
Yeah. Blocks right there.
Yeah, blocks.
Circular rug.
Could be modeled after the room.
Yeah, maybe.
Have to see it.
So I think what we're in agreement is the commercials are not diegetic to the timeline in game. They're just like representations of events, not necessarily like in universe important to the lore.
Well, I think they're in universe. I think they're important.
Well, yeah,
I mean,
like-
we find them in the game.
In universe, but like timeline wise, because obviously one of the ones is just cereal.
God, I hate this one.
And if it was timeline wise, this would be the fifth one, right? Because these are the ones from Steel Wolf 1, 2, 3, 4. So the timeline wise, this would be the
Hang
fifth
on.
one.
Pull up the orders, the order forms. One of them is for that jester.
Let me see. This is Shadow Libra's video going through all of them. Let's see where they are.
No, not the return log, but the order forms for like the paper.
I see what you mean.
Because one of them's for the jester. One of them is internal, and it's for the jester.
Oh.
One of these, I believe. Let's see. I don't remember which one. Best Birthday Co. Sharpay's Salon. Hudgies.
I think it's the top right one.
Mycelium Man. Internal.
Yeah, internal.
Harlequin Print.
Harlequin print, iconic smile. So that's 76 to 77.
Yeah.
That order for that character from the serial is placed in October of 76.
I wonder if you can actually see. I think the earliest one here is the Mycelium Man, 73. Which I find interesting because the original order placement was for October, but it got pushed into November, right?
Oh.
Yeah,
Or
and
not
that's
October, sorry.
73, which is
August, and then it got pushed into.
which is the year that we thought we think Fiona dies,
died.
right? So I could see preparing, especially if you're doing like some big technical things or introducing new technology into a festival, doing your preparations as early as August.
Yeah. So the Mycelium Men, at least these costumes of them, were meant for Fall Fest, then, we think? Actually, the Mycelium Men are an MCM product,
I'm not
right?
saying that they're meant for Fall Fest necessarily. I'm just saying, like, for it to get pushed forward, if it's related to Fiona's death, I could see her being able to die at that time period if she's preparing for something in the fall, because August 4th is very, very much not fall yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like
It's just a couple days.
summer.
It's 100 degrees out here, man. It's not fall.
We're suffering.
My question now is that Mycelium Men, we believe, are an MCM product, right? But the purchaser's name
Yeah.
is Mycelium Men. The purchaser's name is Best Birthday Co., Sharpay's Salon, Hudgies, and then this one is internal. So it seems like internal should be for MCM, right? And these ones are for other companies?
You'd think so, right?
So was it really just that the Mycelium Men were contracted by Edwin then?
Well, no, he named them because he misspelled the name.
That's true.
There's only one L
And
in
it's like-
mycelium. Oh, it'll be fine. It's good for copyright.
So do you think he was making individual companies for all of these products then?
Potentially.
Yeah. If it's like its own copyright thing, he's maybe making like little businesses to then sell, you know, like the kind of person who makes startups and then just sells those. So he starts the Mycelium Man name and then has that available for sale and stuff like that. I could see that happening.
Yeah. That almost makes me wonder then.
Or
if-
yeah, or someone could just purchase the rights for specifically, you know, mycelium and characters. Like if they really like, if you have a really successful, you know, toy or character or whatever, there's a lot of people who would come in and like purchase the rights for that.
It's almost
So
Like
making
not
me
necessarily
wonder.
as a whole
internal-
business, but just like the character rights.
When it says internal, does that mean like for his own personal use? Did he make that little gesture suit like as a fun thing for David? Does it mean internal?
I wouldn't call that little gesture suit a fun thing. I hate that.
No, I hate
Worst.
it. I hate it.
I mean, the kid in the
Just-
commercial
Why
seemed
does
to like
it
it.
look like that?
It's scary.
Quantity 5. 3, 6, 4,
Freaking 5 of them?
8
Ew.
of the mycelium men.
What would he possibly need 5 of them for?
I mean, if it is like
Psychological
he's,
warfare.
you know, contracted, that would be, that's how much, you know.
That one's
Why is
internal.
it internal though? Yeah, what? He's crazy. There's something
And
wrong
also,
with
why
him.
is it after David's death? This was in 76.
By a good
October
bit, too.
of 76.
Yeah, this one was placed 10 days after David's death, or 9 days.
Oh yeah, Sharpay Salon.
Yeah. Which is
Man, he
insane.
really did not stop working for anything, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, he did kind of go insane and stop.
That's true. Good for him.
Like, he did stop working on, like, the Fazbear stuff. Well, actually, do we know that he did, or did he just keep working until the freaking M2 killed him?
I think he just kept working until M2 killed him.
Do we
There
think
is
he-
that.
Oh.
There is I don't know if it's a log or if it's a voice memo or something, but where they're like all he does is sit in his room talking to that thing. So I do think he kind of
Yeah.
stopped working. I think that's what the drop off is that as you know, like you said,
As he
his
lost
descent
it.
into
Yeah.
madness.
Into madness.
Into madness drop. Yeah, he loses it. He stops working. Everything falls apart.
So,
Hmm.
the explosion in his office.
Yeah.
Do we think he caused the explosion? And then just M2 wouldn't help him? Or do we think M2 caused the explosion?
I think he caused the explosion.
I think so too.
I think that, you know, people talk about the fact that the fire starts after running the cradle program. But the fire starts specifically after you start the generator. And so my thought process is that there was a bit of leftover, you know, whatever was explosive in his office and the generator lit it. Because I think we can... Let me see. I want the parachute ending. So right here, you start the generator. There's these barrels of stuff, right? Immediately
Yeah.
after you start the generator, the fire starts right under the barrels.
Yeah, well, there's all this
Oh.
goo on the ground as well when you come in here. And this is like that same stuff that's in the tubes.
Yeah.
Or it looks like the same color.
So whatever this was is flammable, and I think it's probably what blew up his office. For some reason. Yeah, then this rises. Yeah, you can see the fire starts. It explicitly spreads to the barrels first.
Yeah.
You have these barrels here on the left side, and then when it starts on the right side, it starts with the barrel right there.
It's actually, if you look, that's all in that goo on the ground.
Yeah, this, whatever this is right here.
I mean, yeah, if it's molten metal running his whole damn house and factory.
I mean, why is it
if,
just
you
laying on
know-
the floor red hot as well? Like, that's weird.
It also doesn't start till the generator starts it. So I wonder if
Yeah,
that's
it's got a
then...
spark.
Is that like a spark sets it off, or do you think electricity being applied to it would do that to it?
I think it could be either.
Yeah.
I just want to know
Is
why
the
he
goo
spilled so
just
much.
Is it just laying
I
around?
think it was
or is
us
that, like, a
activating the
leak?
generator.
Yeah, but like what?
Yeah, but was it because of the sparks coming off the generator, or did it get an electrical current somehow that started the fire? Because the generator sparks, but it would also be producing electricity, and we're thinking about which one would actually ignite.
Because if it is like remnant that he was working with, or some form of remnant, because it definitely is. Anybody who doesn't think it is wrong. It. Sorry. We know that, like, the schedule theory, you apply the shocks to do something to the remnant. So applying electricity to the remnant does something to it. So it could very well be the case that it could have been the electricity that started something. But I think the fact that the generator sparks implies that...
It would be the spark.
Yeah, because that right there, and then immediately fire.
Does it always spark? Is that the default generator animation, or do they not normally spark when other generators?
I think they always do.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Isn't the wire split on the generator there?
Oh, I'm not sure.
Caleb Lang says.
I doubt I'd be able to see in this video, but I am also not at a spot where I don't even have Secret of the Mimic on my computer, so...
Yeah, just back it up to, like, as you're walking up to the generator. Do they have that?
Yeah, let me see.
So we're talking about the wire coming off the generator to that thing, I think.
Is the goo just laying around?
It doesn't look frame by frame that backwards. It doesn't look split.
Yeah, actually, I
Is
thought
that
this
like
was
a knocked over?
I thought this was the fire, but
Yeah,
this is just whatever is in the barrels.
So there's mystery goo in the barrel that can catch fire?
And looks like hot metal.
Sure.
Edwin had that
Why not?
proto-Faz goo.
Hold on, could you back up a little bit again? Sorry to keep
Yeah.
replaying that scene. There was a symbol on the barrel, or maybe it was...
I
go
think
to
the
where?
sparks just hit the liquid.
Yeah, I think that makes the most sense.
Which barrel has a symbol on it?
I'm guessing you're talking about this one here.
Oh, I see it.
It's just the MCM
It's just the
logo.
MCM.
The MCM
I
logo.
thought it would be like a flammable or a skull or something.
Do you think
like
that implies
I
he was
wonder.
planning on selling whatever this is?
Oh,
He just
maybe.
slapped his logo on everything. I feel like he's a little logo happy.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder if he
Isn't
did
that goop
something
just
to it.
made out of all of like the trash from the recycling
Yeah,
place?
that's what we've been theorizing, is that, like,
Yeah.
because remnant and agony are, like, sourced from emotion, like strong human emotion. If you're taking in all of this metal and melting it down together, then you're basically coalescing all of this energy. And so a lot of us have been theorizing that that's what he's powering the place with, is like this.
Yeah, but why would Edwin know about Remnant?
Well, I don't think he did.
We don't think he does.
I think he was like, oh, this works. Like
It was just, yeah, he was recycling, and then he noticed this source of energy. He doesn't necessarily know what it is. He just noticed, like, oh, source of energy here. Let's use this.
because he doesn't make comment about it. The only thing he comments about the energy is like, you got to keep it up, because presumably it's to, because Fiona's draining a lot. Which, that's also interesting. If it is remnant and it's specifically like a lot of it is powering the F10N4 machine, that I feel like would imply something.
Because, like, remnant is molten metal, but not all molten metal is remnant.
Starts blowing up. So this is definitely what blew up his
Oh.
office, because it starts.
Well,
with-
it's not even
Yeah.
necessarily molten metal, because when you think about like how
Yeah.
we're presented with Remnant and Agony in the books, I mean, like the Simon doll doesn't have metal in it to begin with. It's a white cloth doll, but it gets remnanted before it gets stuck onto the animatronic, right? So we see these different
Perhaps.
energies attaching to
It's just-
objects.
It's just that every time remnant is always brought up or whatnot, metal is always used as the example.
Yeah.
That's because it's the example we have like most commonly. And I think
Yeah.
it's probably like metal being conductive and remnant being an energy. It's probably like, oh well, that would be the easiest thing for it to get on.
I mean,
but we definitely see.
I've said for the longest time that remnant isn't just like haunted metal. It's just whatever is haunted.
I think it's literally emotional, like electricity, because the two things we know about Remnant, from the several books and from the games, is that in the books it specifically like affects water with ice, right? Like Taggart uses.
Yeah, he does this ice test.
Yeah, he
but
does.
yeah.
And then with metal, we know it attaches to metal, pretty well. So, like, according to
I think we're talking about conductivity.
yeah, connectivity. Theory Chum has a video on. It's called Quantum Agony, but it's basically just talking about like the stuff in Frights and how it's explained, and it seems like it just attaches to things that conduct well.
I'm
Yeah,
not
and
so
again,
sure about remnant just being like emotional energies, but like emotional energies obviously plays a part in it.
We definitely have examples of non-agony ghost shit on non-metal things.
Yeah, the Jake doll
Yeah.
is not metal. And
Yeah, that it is not. It is not metal. There's no
Yeah.
metal with it until it gets put on the endoskeleton by Taggart.
Plus the mirror. I mean, you could say it was metal around the mirror, but we don't.
That would depend on how old the mirror is. Antique mirrors were often silver, and that's why the whole thing about vampires can't see the reflection comes from, is because it would have been silver.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the white tiger mascot suit. If it's a mascot suit, it should be cloth. It shouldn't have any fabric in it. And that thing is.
Yeah.
I don't know that there was
definitely
ever an actual white tiger mascot suit made.
Well, we know that
I
the
think
white
that's
tiger
projected.
was marketed, like it was a MCM property that was sold. Because
I must have missed that.
Hey, let me see.
I don't know if I've seen that either. Yeah.
It's there's a white tiger. Let me see if I can see if somebody's got it on YouTube.
I kind of think of the white tiger section, it's very Golden Freddy-esque, where like that's not a physical suit because it's teleporting around, but there is like originally a physical suit, and that's what is possessed?
All right.
Question mark.
I'm gonna go back to my
Or
old
an apparition.
live stream about it so we can see, because I have it here. So my quality on this is, ass, but we'll.
So what do we think is
Do
up with
what
the
we
white
can.
tiger? Because obviously it's got some David Soul shenanigans going
Tiger
on.
is a projection.
Let me see. Whenever I pan down to the ground to look at.
But I
stuff.
think there's a little more to it than just simply, oh, it's David Soul that's haunting the white tiger suit.
So if you, again, I'm gonna bring up the real Jake. I'm gonna bring up Jake and the Stitcher stickers and all this friggin' Frights crap. So in the real Jake, his toy, his plushie that he's attached to, that he keeps with him all the time, is a baseball bat. Now, later in the Stingers, when we see him freeing Andrew from being tethered to the man in room 1280's gross agony ghost, thing. He does it by projecting himself out of the Stitch Wraith as a baseball bat. As his plushie comfort item, as a giant version of it.
Okay, my quality on this is kind
Yeah,
of
it's when he
ass.
smacks Andrew out of his grasp.
Yeah.
My quality is kind of ass, but right there in the center, in front of the train, it's called Tiger something, and it's got a green and a blue eye right there.
I was trying to look for that a while ago.
Yeah, my only issue with that is like all of the other suits that we've seen, they're partially finished versions throughout the place as well. And we don't see any of that with Tiger. We don't see any indication of any suit being made of Tiger.
Yeah.
The only thing we see is
if
that
it exists,
projection.
it was only one. But we at least know the character was marketed. Whether or not there was suits made of it, we know that this is a Tiger, whatever, I forgot what it's called, but this candy bar right here.
I think David is in that endoskeleton that is boarded up and stuck in the bedroom and projecting as the white tiger in a similar way to Jake projecting out as the baseball bat.
Terminal says it's Tiger Truffle.
Tiger Truffle. I'd go for some truffles.
Yeah, I don't know. I think if a tiger costume exists, it was made just for David. Like, because he liked the tiger. It probably would have been made for M1 to wear if it exists. But I do think it is a projection because of the fact that its head is not attached and it's got fleshy bits on the inside.
Kelsey is a projection.
Kelsey is a projection. Yeah, the head of the tiger is not attached and it's got fleshy bits inside. So I think that is a projection. But whether or not one existed to project, I'm not sure.
If there's an actual mascot suit of Tiger, there's no shot that David's spirit is attached to it anyways.
Yeah, no. I think his spirit is attached to the plush doll.
I think it's attached to the endoskeleton that we see him in.
I think it's both.
Shattered, would you say?
No.
Shatter David.
No.
I think David's tiger is to the endoskeleton as Ralph's phone is to Ralph in the week before, where he gets the phone and then he gets, you get the true ending and he rests or whatever happens to him. Because I think Ralph is looping in the week before. I don't think it's real. I think he's dead the entire time the book is happening. So I think that him getting the phone is the equivalent of the endoskeleton getting the tiger. And it would also be similar with like the crying child getting the Fredbear mask. I think is the same type of idea. So
I was trying to find a picture.
I think the reason Tiger is important for achieving that ending doesn't actually have anything to do with whether his soul is in it. I think it's more how are you going to give a child their happiest day if they don't have their comfort item that they always have with them?
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
Wait a minute, these are December 3rds. We don't know the dates, but do you think that these are around the same times as David's death? Like, do you think this one? Yeah, it should be.
Yeah, this is all leading up the week of.
You're right. So, this should be 1975, which would be, right. It's weird that the graph ends at 75. But
it is.
Work continues after.
And for anyone who doesn't know, the reason we're saying this is 1975 is because we know that this December 6th is a Saturday. The party gets canceled the day he dies on the birthday, which is said in a different log to be on a Saturday. So if you look back at 70s calendars, the only one that lines up is 1975 for 6th being on a Saturday.
Yeah, I think if we go to
Maybe
the
it
8
just
a.m. one
means
here.
no one kept track of like profits and stuff after David's death.
This weekend is not optional. The party's on Saturday in the conference room, and that's December 1st. And then December 6th.
And don't tell David it's a surprise.
December 6th is when the party has been canceled.
And literally, we know from the birthday reel with it being like, all right, Fiona, go get him. Everyone hide. So there's already some staff in the room. And then for them to send out a memo that it's been canceled would have to happen the day of. Because if it's the day after, why even bother sending that out?
Yeah, the other days that that calendar date lines up with, Saturday being December 6th, would be 1969 and 1980. So it's just the most likely one is 75, considering the game takes place in 79. But one thing I find interesting about this is that I guess 2 of the days here are missing, the 4th and the 5th. You get December 1st, December 2nd, and December 3rd, and then December 6th. So I wonder, do we think it's possible David died before his birthday? Or do you think he died on the 6th?
It had to be on the birthday because they said, go get him. I doubt they hadn't seen him in like 12 hours. I'm sure they had eyes on the child.
Yeah.
At some point that day. Because the thing is, if the Fiona bot is meant to be doing these conventional, like, trad wife activities, she's feeding this child breakfast.
Yeah.
Until she murders him, I guess.
Yeah. Obviously.
Terminal's wondering why this is found in the Chica's...
You know, murdering your kids after being mistreated by your husband and treated as an object is a real trad wife activity.
You know what?
Oh, Terminal, are you talking about
Girl
the graph itself? Why the graph is found in Chica's Party World? Because to that, I would say... I don't know. They needed to put it somewhere.
I don't think that's where the paper graph is it? It's just like on the whiteboard in there for no reason.
No, it's also in Chica's Party World on the table.
Oh, okay.
Oh, is it on the table? Oh.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the only place it's in, though, is it?
No, it's... Yeah, the graph is also drawn on the chalkboard, and it's also in Chica's Party World on the table.
Okay. Are they the exact same?
I mean, the one on the chalkboard doesn't have the numbers. It just has the same shape as this one, so I can assume it's the same. But...
Okay.
I mean, we know for a fact this is Murray's costume manor net earnings. So...
I would hope so.
I think
I do like the interpretation that, after David died and everything fell apart, they just kind of...
Yeah, stop keeping
The reason
track.
they didn't make a new graph, you know, the reason it's thrown in a random room is just because Edwin didn't care. He doesn't care about his taxes or his income. He's just in his room talking to that robot lady.
I would say that the graph ending on 75, that this would imply this graph was made as part of the year turnover from 75 to 76.
True, they could just do it in 10 years.
75 has to be done, but it would be early in 76 that you would actually have the graph produced as part of yearly accounting activities.
I wonder then if we're supposed to, like, if this is supposed to leave a mystery for the players then, like, say, we see the graph, we see it ends in 75, but we know that the game's happening 79, so we're supposed to go, okay, what happened in those 4 years? Which then leads...
And then clearly they're printing this and putting it into the Chica room in 76 at least.
Yeah.
And we see there are orders in 76, there are orders in 77.
How long do you guys think that Edwin was dead before Arnold gets sent to the factory? How long do you think radio silence before Fazbear sends. Well, they send a team before Arnold, so
Yeah, we
how long
know.
do you think it's been?
We know Team 12 is presumably the last one because it's, that's the ones we find the bodies of.
Yeah.
But it might not necessarily be 12 consecutive teams. Like, they could just have a team that's called Team 12 that went in.
Yeah. I think that was just one team of people, maybe
Yeah.
two. But I wonder how long Edwin had to be radio silent for Fazbear to start sending people in, teams of people in after him.
Well, we know for these ones with the symbols are the ones from the employees, the Fazbear employees.
Yeah.
And I think they talk about hearing screams outside of different guys. So let me see. I'll get to let Libra scroll down to the second one. Maybe I can speed it along.
It does snow at some point in the game, so we are in game in some sort of wintry month.
Yeah, I can still hear Thompson's screams. I didn't sign up for this, so they're at least sending in groups of multiple people up until.
Yeah.
And Caitlin, you're saying these are in order, right? Like, these are in the files. Do you think this is a chronological order?
Oh, this? No.
Oh, okay.
No, what I was
Audio.
talking about being in a chronological order was there's a couple of outliers, which are specifically, I think, the ones you find in R&D. But other than that, it seems like Edwin's audio logs were in order in the files, and I put them in that same order in the video, so you can listen to him slowly lose his mind. It's really interesting.
Last mail received 5 weeks ago. Foreclosure notice. Please respond immediately.
This was August 3rd.
Yeah.
So foreclosure on August 3rd.
And that was
some year.
5 weeks ago, so yeah, I guess if we don't know the year, it's hard to track it down. But presumably this should be sometime in July.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, does this mean nah. Like, when this mail was received, it was August 3rd? Or does it mean that August 3rd is the date of the last mail received? Like, the August 3rd is 5 weeks ago.
We know the date this game takes place in.
September 7th.
Yeah.
So I looked at this message, and I know what you're saying, Mamakato. I went in circles trying to be like, well, which chicken or the egg, does the message come first?
No, hold on.
I think that these are the date they received because of the admin logs.
Yeah, so I think it's received on August 3rd saying your last message was 5 weeks ago.
Okay, but like if it's September 7th in the game, August 3rd is exactly 5 weeks ago.
So, I mean, I
so
guess you could say...
it's probably been a little over 5 weeks since Edwin's disappearance.
What do we think, 10 months then, if that's the case? If August 3rd is 5 weeks before, and we get the thing on August 3rd, it could be that,
But also, he was inactive for some time before that, in order
to get a foreclosure notice.
Yeah.
And foreclose. So
like,
I don't
for
know,
at least a year, right?
June or July, and then...
I would say it would be like 3 months minimum.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the other thing we can do is we can compare that to the order forms. The latest one... Oh, that's the wrong thing. The latest one that we get is sometime in 77. Let me see. It might be.
It's the expressive tongue. It's
right
there.
So the latest you get the order is January 77. We don't necessarily know that they actually picked it up. It could just be that's the pickup date that was assigned, but we know the order had to have been placed in January.
Well, we see finished expressive tongue birthday dogs
Yeah.
around at least. So they did at least complete it. Like they have these hanging out.
Yeah, so presumably this is the last order we see, 77, April 77. Do we think then that's when Edwin stopped working, or do we think he just stopped taking orders and worked for a little bit longer after that? I think I would say
There's
probably,
also like
anything.
this definitely isn't every order form ever.
yeah,
Yeah.
these are just the ones we have available to us.
Now I'm pretty sure that one on the top left. That is not signed. Right?
Yeah.
And it's got a different number. Job number.
Yeah,
From,
I assume the job number is for MCM.
Arnold.
You think this is the first team's message?
I'm thinking this is the other team's paperwork for go into Murray's and get our shit.
I see.
And it's a 79, but we don't see the rest of the date,
Yeah, it's
do we?
explicitly, they put a coffee stain there so you can't see.
Rude.
I mean, they didn't even write it in, but I think that's the point of the coffee stain. So if we assume Fazbear employees started coming in 79, do we think then they started coming around the same time as the foreclosure mail? Because
I mean, could have.
Afton owns the land, right? So the foreclosure would be
On
coming.
the factory itself or on the house. One of the two.
Yeah.
The mailbox with the foreclosure notice is the first one you get in the game, and that's
Yeah.
kind of at
Yeah,
the
it's outside of the factory, isn't it?
It's at the gate going up to his house, like the driveway to his
yeah.
house.
So
Oh, okay.
it could be for either. To be honest, it's nearby both of them.
Is there a separate one for the front door of the costume manor or not?
No, I don't.
No,
believe
there's
so.
only that one mailbox outside.
Does Stevenson's
So
get a purchase order for the same stuff we're throwing out?
I agree with you, Absol. I think the foreclosure is from Fazbear Entertainment. And I think that I think Afton got him to sign some kind of contract that in this event he gets this. He just gets it all.
Yeah. The first two logs you get is the August 3rd and then this one, group chat 1. This is the one immediately inside. This is the first one you can get, but also we don't go in through the main entrance. We go in through the retail entrance, right?
Yeah.
So
or not through the retail,
on-
but we go through not through the retail entrance. We go through the deliveries
The
or whatever.
display or whatever.
Or yeah, display. That was the word I wanted.
So it seems like Edwin's been missing for like 3 to 6 months, maybe. So I think he went missing, or I guess died within 79. So I think during the 75 through 78, he was still working. I think that was the losing it era.
Well, in that case, then, do we think that, like, how long did he wait until making M2? Did he make M2 pretty close to soon after David died and then beat it, and then there was just an aggressive mimic running around for 2 years? Or do we think it took him several years to get M2 and then beat it then? Like, Like, how long in between the beating and his death do we think happened?
Well, at least long enough for the mimic to build himself some new legs.
Yeah.
So however long that could take. I feel like I don't know, man. There is a weird little like 3-year gap with not enough events to fill it.
Yeah.
So, the mimic in The Office in that recording is very explicitly copying Edwin.
Yeah, when he blows up.
So he's had an M2 around him long enough for it to copy his mannerisms really effectively.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The strange thing for me is that this M2 can mimic how he speaks to David, who would be dead at that point.
That's
Well,
true. I mean, I think that's why people go the single endo
Daddy's
route.
busybody.
If he makes M2 and is successful with it becoming David and he's okay with it for a little while and he plays Super Robot Family for a little while, it could be that, and then he kind of cracks it. But I don't know why he would Daddy's busy to a little robot son. That is just bizarre.
Yeah,
Well, adding on to what you just said about like people thinking that there's only one endo Fazbear, that could also just be a case of just Edwin just copied M1's code, so it would probably know some things.
It would remember it regardless of whether or not
that
there was
M1 would
two
know.
endos. Well, the thing for me about that is that it specifically says, why don't you go ask mommy? Which, I don't know if he's referring to Fiona or M1 in that case, but in either one, if M1 is made after her death, then it shouldn't remember that. Or if it's made, if it's made after her death, but if he's talking about M1 in that case, like if he's saying M1 is mommy in that case, it still wouldn't be close enough for it to hear him because he says, why don't you go ask mommy? Right, so I think that is indicative of David's ghost being in the endoskeleton, and it's pulling that from David's memories himself.
And I mean, we hear that exact same thing in the basement, right? And, in the spooky audio that we get throughout the game, we get those lines, so that makes sense.
Yeah. So I think that is, I guess I would say it'd make more sense for it to be pre-M1, and it would just be memories of David affecting the endoskeleton that it pulls to mimic from.
I don't know. I'm not really with that.
What, with the endoskeleton pulling from David's ghost? I thought you liked the idea of David's ghost being on the endoskeleton.
I mean, not the one that's out there in the office with him.
Oh, you think that one would be M1?
I just think it's a different M2. I think there's multiple.
Oh, yeah, I think that
endos.
That fine too.
I don't think there is an M1 endo anymore. Yeah. I think that one was repurposed into the David M2.
Yeah.
Because he would have haunted physically that object.
Yeah. I agree. Okay, well, I guess we've sussed out enough for a general timeline. So, 67 probably when Edwin Sr. dies. Edwin takes over. It flatlines for a little bit, starts crawling out. Then I guess we're thinking the Cleanovac would be the spike towards 70, right? Are we in agreement with that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then it drops for some reason. I don't know if we thought about why that would be the case.
I think it's when all the returns were happening, when the AI kind of started backfiring.
I see. That could also be his incentive to start crafting the mimic. If all the pieces individually don't work, put them together, see what they make. And then that could be the incentive to create the mimic endoskeleton. Then
True.
Fazbear Entertainment gets involved, 73. Big spike, they give him a lot of money. Sales start to fade. Fiona dies, then sales start to fade. David dies, 75. Edward works for a few more years, and then...
You know what?
Yeah, what's up?
If he gets this big spike from Fazbear, he may just decide he doesn't need to develop the mimic endo for marketing to sell or anything.
That's true.
Like, he might just, because of such a big spike, because of all of the income, how successful it feels, and how good of an idea it probably seemed at the time, working with Fazbear Entertainment, he may have just gone, well, okay, well, I don't really need this for, like, my company, but I could work on my company more if I use this for my son.
Yeah, repurposed it.
Yeah. So then what, the mimic itself would just be kind of like on standby. It's just a Fiona only thing until after David's death, and then he starts considering, because obviously Fazbear is not working out for him, so he starts talking about like making M2. You know, I don't even know why it worked the first time. He talks about like it's not ready, as if like he's getting ready to sell it.
Yeah. But there's also like they can't have it.
Yeah. So
which implies like
I guess at that point he's already
Fazbear knows about it.
realized. Yeah, he's already realized that Fazbear is no good and is bad for him, and so he's starting to go back to his original plan with making the mimic as a thing for selling.
Yeah, and then one of the employees leaks it to Afton.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it was Henry, but that's a whole different topic.
Do you guys think there's that little last spike at the very end, you know, kind of smack dab in the middle of 1975? I'm surprised that there's a final spike. That's like, he should be in his big decline era. What do you think that there's anything meaningful about that little spike, or it's just graph?
The change order to move from the Springlocks into making full-blown animatronics, they would have had to pay some kind of deposit or something for that, yeah?
Yeah, I wonder, because there's also one right at the tail end of 74, too, or like the beginning of 75, so I wonder if that was, you know, William being like, look, I promise. It's like him, like, dangling the carrot in front of his face. Like, you'll get it eventually. I'll give you a little bit, but you got to keep going.
Yeah, here's my deposit, but this isn't quite right. We need you to change a few things. Here's a deposit for that. This isn't quite right. We need you to change a few things.
So then he's just spending a while working on the Fazbear project, huh?
Yeah, with this, like, this will pay off, this will pay off. As soon as the Fazbear project is done, everything will be better. Which we see, we get an audio log of that as well, of like, if I just finish the Fazbear project, everyone will come back.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a big reason for me wanting to do this stream, is that specific thing about him thinking Fazbear would bring his project back, because I mean, look at how much money Fazbear has in 73. It's almost like they had more than just the one diner, you know.
Well, I mean, we see like the Chica stuff. I mean, do we think that's a subsidiary?
I don't know. It's strange because the only other thing we see Fazbear branded is Lally's Lollies. So if they're willing to label other things as Fazbear brands, why wouldn't Chica be considered a Fazbear brand? Because Chica's is attributed to Chica's Restaurants as the company, but Lally's Lollies is attributed to Fazbear Entertainment.
That's why I don't think Chica was I think Chica's Party World was brought out by Fazbear.
Can I point out something really quickly that's very off topic, just for a second?
Yeah.
So the concept that a Springlock suit or a mascot costume or something that a person is going to wear should have 5 fingers. And then when you go into that room with all the Chica stuff, you see papers that very directly show a person goes into this suit, and then there's literally a close-up Polaroid photograph of the hand with 4 fingers, and I really feel like they're trying to tell us something. Like, there's so much 4-fingered wear this suit in this game.
Are you thinking Chico is a spring lock then? Or
No, well, that wasn't like a spring lock design. I'm just saying, like, I don't think we can rely on this can't have been worn by a person because it doesn't have 5 fingers.
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
think we can
No,
rely
I
on
mean,
that anymore.
we wear Captain Springlock, and Captain Springlock
Yeah,
only
that's what
has
I'm
4
saying.
fingers.
Like,
But like, if it was just that, I think people could chalk it up to Steelwool making a mistake. But since we have that very, like, someone took a picture of this suit's hand, just its hand, for no reason. It's in here. You should look at this. Like, that feels so
Yeah.
I think
on
this is
purpose.
a long time ago. I think people have argued that like Golden Freddy couldn't be like a springlock suit because it has 4 fingers and stuff. And I was like, no, that just wasn't planned at the time. But now, like with this game, who cares?
Yeah. That's funny. Absol saying if you Google mascot suit hands, the first example has 4 fingers.
Yeah, it's pretty common in real life to just you just combine like your index and your middle finger, right? It's
Yeah.
pretty normal.
Like a
Yeah.
like a Spock thing, or like a whatever, you know. Okay, well, I think we have a pretty good timeline of MCM in that case. So I guess 65 to 68 at the beginning is how long? I mean, MCM could have been around for years before that, but we at least are assuming 65 to 68 is when Edwin Sr. was working.
Yeah.
Dies. I guess
I like that.
the one thing I am curious on is we know at some point Edwin starts using the mimic programming for things in the factory, like the showtime routines, right? When do we think that happens? Because the mimic itself,
What do you mean for
M1,
the Showtime?
like for the puppet show.
Oh, just using the endoskeleton, you mean?
No, like the programming itself, like the storyteller tree type thing, because he talks about getting rid of you know, pesky puppeteers and stuff like that. You can just use our programming and it does everything.
Yes, the talent. We removed the talent.
Yeah, the
I
talent.
remember.
So,
That?
do we think that's post David's death or before? Because I feel like that would be before. Almost, I guess it could be like a sign of desperation because the Fazbear project isn't going well.
I mean,
Maybe?
if everyone's leaving him, he'd have good reason to start making things that don't rely on people.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, sometime between 73 to, I don't know, I guess 78 is where we're assuming Edwin died. Sometime in that 5-year gap, he's replacing employees with Mimic AI because their employees are leaving to Fazbear anyways.
Yeah. When do we think David died? 75 or?
Yeah, 75. December 6th, 75 is when it lines up with the...
So just kind of right off the chart. So the chart
Yeah,
kind of
like-
drops off right when.
Yeah, right at David's death. I mean, it would be probably
Okay.
like right there.
So we don't
but-
see the effects of his death on the company.
Yeah, we don't see how it affects the sales, but we know the last sale that he gets, at least according to the orders that we can find, is 77. You know, another thing's interesting is I'm not sure if it's this graph. Yeah, 74. Benefits of bringing your child to work day. Collective opinion of the workshop staff that having children running around the workshop space is too difficult or too much of a safety risk. Another accident could put us further behind schedule. Obviously, this can't be David, right? So, I guess they just had other children running around. Before this point.
They shouldn't have.
I mean,
Simply too much.
But they may have.
unless we think...
No, so coupling this, like, with the log of Edwin being like, don't worry about it. He's right here with all the people working. all the people getting deliveries off of big trucks that are driving in this area, working. They'll watch him on the playground.
Yeah.
Well,
Uh,
this isn't it.
Let me bring my kid to my workplace. It's a great idea. And then you have this being like, it was very clearly not a good idea, and he should have known this.
Yeah, Absol's asking why it can't be David for this, because David dies in 1975 on December 6th. This is April 1974.
Yep,
so
December 6th being a Saturday means that his death cannot occur in 1974 or 73 or 2 or 1.
Yeah, the
or
only
70.
days it lines up with is 69 and 80. Unless we just assume calendars don't mean jack, which, then we're all over the place. But
Nah, man, they know too much about what we do.
yeah.
Somebody else's kid had an accident that put them behind schedule.
It would be really funny if this was Michael. I like the idea of Michael and David hanging out together, so
Oh,
I think that's funny.
So, with it being an accident that put behind schedule, are we sure that necessarily means that like a person got hurt, or did a kid just like break something?
it says a safety risk, so I think someone got hurt. I don't know if somebody died. It could have just been a kid got his arm stuck in a gear or something, and they're like, that's so inconvenient.
Yeah, they had to turn off all the equipment, get the kid untangled, and make sure he was all right. Probably call in like medical to look at him. All this crap. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, like, we
Wasting
talk
money,
about the
am I right?
specific fear not being the safety risk, but being behind schedule.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
It's to the administration department from the workshop leads. So I don't know who that.
So
would
it
be.
was an administration department's kid running around in the workshop, and then the workshop says, "Hey, don't do that again."
Yeah, potentially. It'd be really funny if David did something and then Edwin was like, "No, that wasn't my kid." All right.
Calendars don't mean anything.
Then
Is
we're
there-
all over the. If the calendars don't mean anything, then I would say.
done.
I mean, I still think
It's
this
just
would
beginning.
line up with the narrative. Fiona dies 73, David dies 75. That's when it stops. I feel like that still is like a good visual narrative being told by this graph.
Yeah, I like it.
So I think, I think even without the calendars, it would still be 75. Terminal. I was thinking about that before because you're talking about Bring Your Child to Work Day with Elizabeth. But this is obviously Bring Your Child to Work Days, unless Edwin also invented Bring Your Child to Work Day alongside recycling, in which case that's
And QR codes, don't
yeah,
forget.
and
Or
QR
barcodes.
codes. Where it's just
God.
the inventor invented everything. All right, well, I'm pretty satisfied with this timeline. I think got it all sussed out.
Heck yeah.
Right?
So
Solve Secret of the Mimic. Everybody can go home.
true. So yeah, I guess
We did it.
Feel free to anybody
I
to
was
use
right.
this in your
Mimic is haunted.
timelines going forward. I guess I'll recap it real quick again. 68, beginning 68, Edwin Sr. dies. So Edwin and Fiona meet sometime before that, 65 to 68, sometime between there. Edwin Sr. dies. Edwin takes over. Cleanovac, beginning of 71. Tech starts failing. It dips down below the red. Edwin's like, well, why not just combine it all? Starts working on the designs for the Mimic after David's second birthday, which is what we hear in the tapes. This will be even bigger than the Cleanovac. 73, Fazbear gets involved, starts the Fazbear project. Fiona dies. Fazbear project starts ruining MCM. He probably starts implementing mimic technology as employees start leaving. David dies 75. Work continues until at least 77, although Edwin probably was still alive until late 78 to early 79. Which I guess would mean M2 would either have been beaten and unfunctional for several years, or M2 wasn't functional until right towards the end of Secret of the Mimic. Or, like, towards the beginning of when we start.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna be
some
real. Like,
leeway there.
he could have repurposed Mimic Fiona's body into an M2, and then that started acting like David, and he was like, I can't handle this, and like barricades it in the room, and then like makes another one, and it like maybe hears the David one through the door or something, because it's in the house,
Yeah.
clearly, at least at some point. And then he like takes it out back, and then like starts like experimenting with other stuff, and then it builds itself some new legs on its own.
Yeah.
Takes them out back.
Do you think he, like, beats it and puts it in the basement, and then it rebuilds itself in the basement?
I don't know where it rebuilt itself.
I mean, it could use the secret room of mimic parts to rebuild
Yeah,
itself.
there is literally a secret room of mimic parts down there.
Yeah.
And that audio is found near the basement. And I think the audio have some relevance to where they're found.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that works then. He beats the mimic, puts it in the basement. So I guess an indeterminate amount of time can pass between the mimic being beaten and shoved in the basement, and then, that honestly, that is reminding me of Moon, right? We found some thing down here, but I don't even want to get into Sleepy Moon. That's gonna be a whole.
Oh God, I hate him and I love him.
That would be
He's
a
so
whole
crazy.
stream by itself.
Yeah.
All right, another 19-hour stream. Get ready.
Yeah.
Oh no, please. Please.
Snake Master, we don't know when the power surges in the basement started, but we can assume it's related to the F10N4 machine. So presumably sometime after that happens. Which I guess if that is the thing that puts M2 in, like if that's the creation of M2 would have been around for a while before Edwin beat it, or that wouldn't have started happening till later on. But we know he had employees when the power surges were happening, so presumably before 77. So I guess F10N4 was around for at least 2 years before Secret of the Mimic. So
Yeah, I guess maybe all the employees kind of left right during or after or around 77.
Well, there's-
and then for 78 and 79, or those couple years, that's when Edwin just puts his head down and is like, I just need to finish the Fazbear project by himself.
Yeah, well,
And
they
that's
were
what-
stealing his stuff too on the way out.
yeah,
Like
and he
there's
shuts
specifically
down
when
the
it's like
admin wing.
Stanley made out with what he could, and then like later on you have Stan's budget tech that you're like buying stuff from in FNAF 6. Like,
And it's mediocre melodies, which are based on Edwin's designs. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, so all right, well, I think that all works. I don't know, you guys want to give yourselves shout outs before we start heading out? Say who you are, where to find you. I guess we'll start with Professor Petal Go.
Hello, I am Professor Petal of FNAFology 101, and I teach FNAFology 101. That's about it.
True and real, and also CEO of Loop Victim, which is True and Peak.
Yes, Loop Victim, the mother of Loop Victim.
Yes. Glitchsiety, you wanna give yourself something?
Hey, I'm Glitch Anxiety, and you guys can check me out and subscribe to my YouTube channel.
Based. All right, Mamakato, you got something?
Hey, I'm Caitlin from the Mamakato channel. Shout out to me for being right about Mimic being haunted. You know, like I'm right about everything else. You should subscribe. Want to know the real lore? Because canonically, I'm actually Scott Cawthon in real life, real life.
True.
That's true. I've met them.
Indeed. All right. Well, I'm Fazbear Entertainment, and you know what to do. All right. Goodbye.
Bye, chat.